Fun is Fundamental. Fun is Fundamental is a podcast for those who realize that the enjoyment of life is about having something deep in our souls which lights our fire. It's for those who maybe have lost that fire and feel like they are missing out on the pleasures of life. In each episode, I will share recent fun activities and focus on why having fun is essential for good health. I'm your host, Zolman, and I invite you to take this journey with me and join the pleasure-seeking movement. Good evening, Paul. How are you doing today?
Great, Lalania. Glad to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm glad you're here too. I guess first off, can you tell the audience a bit about yourself and like what do you do? Yeah.
So I started life a long time ago, and I don't know if you want the long story, short story, but I'll try to make it as short as possible. But I started life with an angry childhood, and that angry childhood led me to want to obey rules so I wouldn't get in trouble. So at age 17, I took a test in high school, one of those occupational tests that says that this occupation would be really good for you. And it came out that I'd be a great IRS agent. I did not want to be an IRS agent at all. But it took me a long time to get a college degree, but I actually graduated in accounting, and which is kind of like the IRS, has a lot of rules and a lot of things that you have to obey. And so that's my background, but it was just I still had a lot of residual anger left over from that angry atmosphere of childhood that I was brought up angry, that the residual anger was spilling over into adulthood, and I wanted to find a way to get rid of that. So I was looking around and found something that worked for me. So that's what I'm here to share with you, Lalania.
That's great. Yeah, I can you tell the audience a little bit about role of love?
Sure. So that's really kind of the solution of the problem that I found. What I found is that I read the 5 love languages, and I really liked the principles of the 5 love languages, but I went through the book 4 or 5 times, but I really, the book didn't go through me. I didn't get it. Being from the background that I had of that abuse, what that culture looks like is that it's a person that talks over somebody. It's a person that has no boundaries. It's a person that has a lot of sarcasm, a lot of biting humor, that you're the put down and you're the butt of the joke type situation. All that plus abuse, all kinds of abuse that were happening within the family was just a bad situation. With that residual anger that I felt at age 35, I realized I got to stop blaming my father for all this anger that I still had. And what I realized, what the pattern was Lalania, is that I would stack annoyances, one on top of another, until it got to the point that I couldn't take one more annoyance. And then that would be the camel that breaks the straw that breaks the camel's back. And when that happened, there'd be a flash of anger. And after that flash of anger, then I'd come back down, and then I'd start stacking again until I got to that point. It was cyclic like that. And I wanted to stop that cycle of anger. But I didn't know how to do it. I was saying, I don't want to be angry. And that's like a double negative sentence all by itself. And double negatives, 2 negative numbers multiplied together in math make a positive number, but it doesn't work in relationships. And I was finding out that it really wasn't working for me. So what I did was this anger actually was part of the contributory to the demise of my first marriage. Had 8 children, and after the dissolution of the marriage, 5 remaining children I had primary custody of. So while I'm single, I'm doing destination dating, finding a person that lives in a different city, choosing a city to meet in, and doing what I call destination dating. It was fun. Talk about fun. Fun is fundamental, right?
Yeah.
So I was having this midlife crisis, Melania, and in this midlife crisis, I was not finding love anywhere. Went to several cities, spent a lot of money, did it for about a year and a half. Thought I had a line on somebody in Phoenix, so I moved to Phoenix and tried to develop the relationship. Just didn't work. So here I am now in Phoenix, and my my ex-wife is wanting the primary custody back of the children after 3.5 years. There's only three left in the household. Her plan was, though, to move in with her parents. And so I thought, you know what, that's really kind of a cool thing for these last three children to get to know their grandparents. I'm number 10 of 11 children, Melania, and I didn't know my grandfathers at all. They both had passed away before I was ever born. But I had a grandmother that was 350 miles east and one that is 350 miles west. And so as I'm the very infrequent visits to those grandmothers, and I didn't have that big a relationship with them. I knew one was cranky and one was very nice, and that's about all I knew. So I wanted these children to have that experience. So I relinquished primary custody back to my ex-wife and let her take those children. Now I'm all alone. While I'm all alone, my older sister, I'm number 10 of 11, sandwiched between two girls, an older sister, a younger sister. My older sister gives me a call and says that she has this neighbor she wants to introduce to me. She lives 7 hours away. I said, no, I don't want to do that. I've already done this destination dating. I was looking for love in all the wrong places, didn't find it. I don't want to do that again. And she's older sister. She said, oh, come on. And you kind of got to do what older siblings tell you to do. Back in the day, Lalania, I was the human remote control. I had shorter legs, obviously, and I was closer to the TV. All the older brothers said, go change the channel. And I'd go walk up to the TV and turn the knob. That's how you used to do it. You used to change the channel. So, I had to do what older sister said. I said, okay, I'll email her. What kind of relationship can you develop with email? I was thinking, I'm doing this half-hearted, but actually she was a really good writer. And we're just having a fun exchanges back and forth, and finally get to the point I get brave. I'm going to ask her a question. I said, how many times have you been married? And she writes back and said, counting the 5 that are buried in the backyard. Just like that, I roared with laughter. I thought, this is the funniest thing. I've got someone here with personality. Somebody's got a sense of humor. I like this. I'm going to pursue this a little bit more. And so while having that live wire, we get a little closer. And then I decide I'm going to move up to where my sister's at, since I'm carefree single anyway, and develop the relationship a little bit more. We became serious, and now it's time for big brother approval. So I take this woman up to my brother's house, 300 miles north, and first thing that happened when we walked in, my sister-in-law pulls her aside and says, the only emotion that the Zolman family had growing up was anger. At first I denied. I said, it made me mad. I thought, I busted. She just said what our family was, and I still got it. And I realized at that point that I have an opportunity to change this generational thing that has been passed down from my father, and who knows where he got it, probably from his parents taught him that you stack anger, be annoyed, and then you have this blowout. And so I realized I've got an opportunity to change that. So I started reading the color code and then the 5 love languages. And I really settled on the 5 love languages because Dr. Chapman's a pastor. He wrote it in the early 90s, pastor, and he said that each one of the love languages reconcile to the life of Jesus Christ. I'm a Christian, and I thought that would be really kind of a good path to go. So I wanted to learn more about it, and I love the principles. But from this angry culture that I came from, I didn't get it. I didn't understand what I needed to do to any more than what Dr. Chapman said. Dr. Chapman told me that if I guessed Lalania,
Lalania.
yeah, I feel like I'm in La La Land.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Lalania, if I guessed what your love language is and then catered to that, then we'd be buddies. I'm a really bad guesser, and it wasn't working up until that point, and it still wasn't working. So Dr. Chapman has this second option. Well, if you take this survey, you'll find out what your love language is. Well, what do I do with that? Dr. Chapman advertise. Hello, Lania. I'm gifts. What do you have for me today? Here's my Venmo account. I'll put it right on this badge right here. I mean, just that it's ridiculous. And it's so awkward. That wasn't working for me either. So I had an idea. I thought that our family is, even as dysfunctional as we were, we played games as a family when I was younger. And those games brought us together. Of course, there was still the smack talk, there were still the put downs, still very aggressive competition. There were all that involved in these games, but it brought our family together. So I thought, what if I could make this a game? So I contacted Dr. Chapman, asked him, are you licensing those little icons that you have for the love languages? And his attorney wrote back and said, no, we're not doing that at this time. So I had a friend that was a copyright attorney, still is a copyright attorney in the city I live in. And I went to him and talked to him about this issue. He said this, said theory, like the love language theory, is not copyrightable. Application is. So they weren't doing the application of this as a game. So I had permission then to actually make my own icons and create it into a game. So that's what I did. So I have a game here. It's just a cube that has the love languages on it. They're all pictures right now. Right now I'm showing two hands holding hands. That would be the love language of touch. This one, the two hands together forming a heart. And then the heart, it looks like the heart is talking because there's a conversation fly out from the heart. And those would be the words of the heart. The hands holding an hourglass now. That would be representative of time. We've got what looks like a little server with a platter. That would be for service. And then the last one would be a hand holding a gift. That's gifts. 5 love languages, 6 sides on the cube. The last one is surprise me. So there's just 2 instructions, Lelania. You roll the cube every day, whatever it lands on, that's the love language you practice giving away all day that day, all day to everybody. So remember, I'm single at the time I create this. I thought, Dr. Chapman, you said to love your significant other. I don't have anybody. Who am I supposed to love? And then I realized, oh, I guess I just have to love everybody. And it's just, it was almost like just like that. That was maybe a chore. I have to love everybody. And there's no willy-nilly. I can't get mad. Oh, I needed that replacement behavior. What I realized, Elenia, was that I was looking at what's wrong with that person. And that's how I became annoyed. What's wrong with them? I was looking at maybe the 10 or 20% of people that have weaknesses or faults. I wasn't looking at the 80 to 90% of what was good about that person. Oh, you mean I can't look at the faults anymore? I have to look the total opposite direction and look at what's good about that person. It was an absolute paradigm shift for me. Now, with rolling the die, I'm watching for what's right about that person. What can I love about that person? It's absolutely changed my life. I'm so busy looking at that 80 to 90% of people that is good about that person, I forgot to be annoyed. And I realized that I don't have any business deciding what they should do anyway. That's a boundary that really I needed to draw. That was not one of those boundaries I learned as a child. Remember, there's no boundaries in the angry culture. There's that bad humor, bad vocabulary, all that. I realized that's a boundary. I don't have any say of what that person chooses to do. Why would I think I have any say to if they do something that may seem stupid to me or wrong to me? I don't have any say to say any of that. I can ask them if they'd like some advice and then wait for the permission, or they can ask me for advice and then I can offer the advice. But I didn't understand that boundary and just obviously wasn't obeying that boundary, that stay in your lane. The other thing about this is that I realized that I can't bid love to come my way. That's their choice. If they want to send love to me, that's great. All I can do is send it out and then respond when it comes my way. So the whole idea of rolling the die every day is that you're sending it out without any regard of it ever coming back. You don't expect it to come back, except that you trust that the laws of the universe, like the law of the harvest or the law of attraction or karma, you trust all those laws that were put in place before even you or I were born. They're already there. What you send out is going to come back to you someday. It might come back immediately. It might come back many days later. But what you're looking for is for people to light up. When they light up, you've actually made their day. you've hit upon their primary, what Dr. Chapman would call their primary love language, something that they really like, either a primary or a secondary love language. They light up. When they light up, you just take a mental note that, oh, that's what they like for that person, and just wash, rinse, repeat for that person. So going through the day, you've got this genre of love that you're sending out, using your observation skills, watching for those people that light up. There's some great satisfaction in helping people have a better day. Great satisfaction that you're making their day very special. And that's immediate satisfaction and really kind of payment, so to speak, for that love that you're sending out. And that's kind of the story about that, and how I came to this point, that just trying to make that change from anger to love. I needed that replacement behavior. This actually was magical. Within 30 days of just that about face, turning around and looking the other direction, looking for what's good about people instead of looking for what's bad about people, it changed my life.
Right. Yeah. And you also wrote a book. What inspired that, and what is it, like partly like your story, like what inspired you, or is there anything else that is part of the book?
Yeah, good question. La Lania.
Yes.
Okay. That's a great question. There actually is an inspiration. The dice actually was copyrighted in 2017, so I've had it all that time. And I'm not just saying that you only do this for 30 days and you're done. It's not like I'd wash the dishes, I'm done. It's not like that at all. It's a developing the habit. And so I've rolled the dice ever since that time. I roll it every single day. For a 2-minute investment, you actually, or 2-second investment, actually, you get a whole lot of return for that investment. And it's really kind of sets the theme for the day. The I was trying to sell that and sell the concept to mental health specialists, professionals that do the therapy, and they were saying, I understand it and it's a great tool, but it's almost like we need a manual, because it's absolutely different than what the application that we're familiar with of the love languages from Dr. Chapman. Absolutely different. Instead of just discovering what someone's love language is and catering to that, now you're sending love out to everybody, learning all the love languages, and it's totally different. So this mental health specialist that I talked to last year said, so you've got to write a book. You've got to describe what we're doing here, because nobody's going to understand it. The explanation is way too long, so you need to have kind of a companion manual, so to speak, of how to use this cube and how it's going to change people's lives. And so that was the inspiration. Just about about a year and a half ago, that I had that inspiration from a mental health specialist. That's what I needed to do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for the audience to know, you sent me one, and for my coworker in our classroom, and we have used it in our class,
Oh,
and
good.
yeah, the kids of course love rolling the die, and we were having a kindness challenge at the same time, so like was like really good timing for that. And they basically, like, what we kind of do is like we roll the die, and then it's like ever like kind of the goal is like for everyone to uh do something that aligns with that love language for the day. And then at the end of the day, we also like kind of take inventory, and it's like, oh, what did you notice that someone did, kind of thing, so that we can reflect on it, kind of thing. So yeah, it's been really a nice challenge for everyone.
What did you notice about the Lalania? What did you notice with the kids? Do you think that their behavior was better because of it, or were they did they feel responsible for their behavior because of that's what they were rolling that day?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally just when it's like things are being like really being purposeful and like calling attention to uh what our goal is for the day. they do take more responsibility for like
Mm.
what they're doing and not just like reacting. And like what can they do and not just like you know, sometimes it's like if sometimes they feel like they don't have control over things. But in this way, like they can take ownership of like how their day is and like what can they do to make someone else's day better, and then that person will make their day better. Like it's just like kind of this like back and forth like give and take that
Mm.
is happening. And I
Yeah.
think it's definitely been a positive experience and change that's been happening. So
Oh, great, great. That's good report. I'm really happy to hear that, and I'm loving that the test is working out for you. And I hope you'll continue that. So really implant this in these children's minds that you're teaching, that they'll understand that they absolutely are responsible for what they send out, whether it's anger, whether it's love, and it really irons out, like you said, irons out those knee-jerk reactions like I was having of being annoyed, 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 annoyed. What I found, Lalania, is that I found that that stacking effect was a pattern of life that I had, but it ended in anger. I've also discovered, and I did never know this, that there's a pattern for love in that way too, that you stack kindness on top of kindness, on top of kindness, on top of kindness, then you get to the higher laws of love. The higher laws of love to me are above the love languages, more something that you become fluent with after you've been practicing the love languages for a while. And what I'm talking about is that you'll get to charity, you'll get to compassion, you'll get to intimacy, to mercy, to forgiveness, empathy or sympathy. Those are all higher laws of love, something way above this right now. Can you imagine anybody getting forgiveness if they're insulting, and then asking for forgiveness? It's going to be kind of hard pressed to have that forthcoming, or to have that expectation that that might be something that might be granted. But it's so much easier if you have kindness, 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 then ask for forgiveness. And it's just that's the steps. So these are the building blocks. These are foundational, and I love that you're teaching children how to do that and how to have this as foundational in their life. It's really going to be something that hopefully they'll carry to the next phase of school and to the next and to through college and throughout their life. And they're going to be better adults, better citizens, better people that send out love every day because of that. And the second thing about that, from what you just said, is that they're learning that it's not about them, and that just we're trying to take away from teaching narcissism that way, and that it is about them. It's not. When we discover that, it's about not about me, but it's about them. Whenever it's about them, we're doing things that make them happy. And as we do that sort of thing, there's great satisfaction and happiness that comes to us for lifting someone else up. You can walk down any street, and for your listeners, anybody in a depressed mode or anybody in a pity mode that's just sitting around waiting for love to come to them, just get up, walk out the door, walk down the street. You'll definitely find someone that's a little bit lower than you are, a little bit more depressed than you are, and you'll be able to raise them up. When you raise them up, not only are they happy, but you feel that satisfaction yourself. You've actually raised yourself up, and that's the way to do it. That's the way to get out of those doldrums. That's the way to get out of that little pity party of being a victim or whatever, and start sending love out. I love the lyrics of a song that's from the Sound of Music. Rolf is the little delivery boy riding his bicycle around, and he's on the yard of the Von Trapp estate, and he's singing a song to Maria on the second floor. And part of that song, the lyrics of that song say, "Love in the heart wasn't put there to stay. Love isn't love till it's given away." We need to absolutely give that love away. I fully believe that for it to ever come our way. We don't send it out. How is it ever supposed to come back? And if we're just waiting for it to come, how are we ever going to recognize it? And part of my own myopic problem was that I only knew physical touch as a child. And of course, as I took the test from Dr. Chapman, that was my love languages. But I missed people loving on me in different ways throughout my life. I know I missed a lot of it. Now, because I've rolled the die every day and giving away all the love languages, I know them backwards and forwards. So now I have a peripheral vision that I didn't have before. I can see it when it comes my way. So, oh, they're loving on me. It's not my primary love language, but I can see they're loving on me. Now I can respond because I have that that new kind of a new communication system that is broader and more understanding. I think couples really need that. We all need it. We need it with children. We need it with our friends. We need it with our significant others as well.
Yeah. I mean, so you talked about how like your primary was and maybe still is physical touch. Did any of the other ones kind of grow in you, like you appreciate them more and you feel it more now, uh, besides just physical touch, or is it just like it's still just physical touch that is your love language?
So that's a really good question, Lalania. I didn't know any other love language. So what I didn't know, I didn't know. And so as I've learned these other love languages, I actually have a affinity for all of them at a certain time. And I think that rather than having to eat tacos or be put into a box, like Dr. Chapman says, you take this survey, this is your primary love language. Instead of being put into a box like that I'm going to have to eat tacos every single day the rest of my life, because that's what that's what I love. I mean, if that's the only thing I have to eat, life's going to be really kind of dull and boring. This adds the variety to that, so you can actually learn about all the love languages, learn to feel that for yourself, because everybody sends out kind of what they like. A lot of people do. I like to receive something different than what I send out. But most people like to send out what they want to get back, and they think it's reciprocity, or they think that it's a reality show, like let's make a deal. And that's not love. That's a transaction to me. You got to send it out without any expectation of it coming back. That would be the true love. But as you send it out and send it out in a variety of ways, it's also going to come back to you in a variety of ways, and it's going to, that one day it might be your favorite for that particular day and you'll light up. The next day it might be a little bit different. So the change for me has happened that actually, like words, physical touch is down 1 or 2 notches from that now, and it's just different. And I think there is that evolving process for people as they learn the different love languages, that things will change for them, that you'll be able to have a different disposition, because it's going to be different on Christmas Day. You're all going to expect that love language of gifts, and you're going to feel it from other. Hopefully you're going to get it too.
Yeah, definitely. When you set out to make the die, who was your intended audience? And then I guess, has that changed at all in the last 5 years of you having it out, or 6 years? Yeah, 6 years of you having it out.
That's an incredible question. My audience was me. I was my subject. I wanted to change me, and that was the only audience I was even thinking about at the time. This is the prototype I did. It's a 2.5 inch square cube, made out of wood. When I first made it, it had sharp edges, and it kind of like me. The angry edges. It had those sharp edges. Yeah. So it was really clunky to try to roll it. I could hold up the side that I wanted to have show up, hold it up in one direction, roll it. Definitely it would land on that. It was like a weighted dice. It would roll on whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
Said, that's not going to work. So I had to bevel off the edges, make the edges more smooth so it actually would roll, and it would do its own random thing. And so that's the way it started. And that I was the target. I was the one that wanted to change and have that change of behavior from just that knee-jerk reaction from being angry to have that knee-jerk reaction of being loving. Everything is about love now. It's hardly ever get annoyed. Well, there was one time I got annoyed, Walania, so annoyed with myself. I didn't talk to myself for 3 days.
I mean, that that would be a little hard, right? Because you're always with yourself, right?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
joke.
yeah, definitely. Um, has changing your outlook towards love um made you have more fun in your life?
That's a great question. Absolutely. There's nothing more fun for me now than watching people light up. It's almost like the childlike spirit that when I'm a grandfather now, when the grandson or granddaughter see me and they light up and I light up, we're having a great time. When you light someone up and make their day a better day, you're actually having a great time. It really is fun. This is so much fun to find out what's right about that person. How can I help that person have a happy day? What is really happy about what's fun about that person? And you point these things out. Maybe they've never seen it before, or maybe they've never heard it before about how wonderful they are. And when they hear it, they just feel lighter, they feel happier. They're going to share that happiness with their circles of influence as well. It really is a great way to spread the fun. Contrast it with the anger I was sending out. If I make somebody's day miserable, they're going to make somebody else's day miserable, and they're going to make somebody else's day miserable. And we don't need a more miserable world. We're already there.
Yeah, definitely. What's your long-term goal of role of love?
There are a lot of long-term goals, Lalania, and some of the long-term goals are obviously, as you're doing, getting it into the school system. I'm looking for corporate sponsors that would actually fund that part of it, that they would, there's a lot of schools all around the world that if they just took the two seconds to roll the die at the beginning of the day, maybe 30 to 45 seconds, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know how long you're explaining what you're doing with that for that day, or what that love language looks like for the day.
Mhm.
Hopefully, it's not a very long explanation, but enough so that the children will understand. Taking just that 1 minute at the beginning of the day and then journaling it at the end of the day, somehow, some way. I know you're teaching kindergarten, which is kind of a young grade to be journaling,
Yeah.
but they could draw pictures of it, or you could have that discussion at the end of the day. I've talked with teachers around the world, Lalania, and teachers around the world, just like yourself, understand that last 10 to 15 minutes a day is really non-productive time. If you can make that productive time by journaling does a couple of things for the children. It actually kind of de-stresses people. When they write in a journal, it just is a kind of, I got that off my brain. I've just kind of a relief for people to get that. We can do that with all the children throughout their grades. Just relieve them at the end of the day of the pressures of that day before they ever go home. Make that last 10 to 15 minutes productive. That's part of the goal in the future. The other thing is that I would love to uh, make a nonprofit organization so that these corporate donors actually would get a tax write-off for helping schools do that. They're really focused on that right now for the immediate future, trying to get that up and running.
Nice. Yeah. I always like to ask my guests, how do you define fun?
Great question. And that's a fun question too. I define fun as just kind of lighting people up, having some laughter, and they'll light me up, and we'll just have that banter back and forth. Not really banter, because banter is kind of a negative word, but it's just that interchange back and forth, that exchange, that loving intimacy, so to speak, of I'll light you up, you light me up, and we just have that situation that way. I think it's just good fun, and it's just kind fun. It's the Some people get really fun when they have the gotcha moments, that they just say, I gotcha, and I got you here, and I got you good. and that seems fun to them. And I think that's really more on in the angry culture. And you don't, I think that if you consider even the word sarcasm or the word impatience, what would be the opposite? And I think it's very valuable to consider what the opposite would be. As far as impatience, obviously, the patience would be it. Patience is part of that loving, the circle of culture that would represent love. As far as sarcasm goes, people love it, and it's prevalent out there right now. But consider what the opposite would be. I think the opposite word, perfect word for that would be genuine or authentic. Now look at it. Do you want to be sarcastic or do you want to be authentic and genuine? And it's an easy choice. When people understand where they are on the spectrum from anger to love, they can say, well, is that closer to the angry side, angry culture of the spectrum, or is it more loving? They'll want to gravitate and move toward that loving side of the spectrum. I think it's a natural thing. And I think that's fun for me to be able to see people make that transformation. And it's fun to have good, clean fun like that. And I like fun like that.
Yeah, definitely. I also like to ask people what their play personality is. According to the Institute of Play in the United States, there are 8 play personalities. There's the kinesthetic, the competitor, the joker, the creative, explorer, storyteller, collector, and director. And you can be more than one.
So I'm happy to tell a joke. I love telling jokes from time to time. I think humor, just like I found out with that person that my sister wanted to introduce me to and did introduce me to. I think humor plays a huge important part. You need that fun in your life to just kind of take you away from reality for a moment, maybe just for a little moment. Even there's fun with reality. There's just absolutely things that just happen during the day that you can look back and say, oh, that was hilarious. I never would have expected that outcome. For example, there was a family that I tested this dice with, a family of 5 children, and the youngest was 4 years old, even before kindergarten. And he learned all the different sides of his parents taught him all the different sides of the die. And one day he rolled the die on himself. So this family chose to each individual in the family would roll the die at the beginning of the day. One day he rolled physical touch and he's jumping up and down and said, yes, physical touch, and immediately went to beat up on his brothers. And the mother's howling with laughter or trying to suppress the laughter and say, no, son, the high five or the fist bump or the hug would be appropriate physical touch. And so all the siblings are there. It becomes a teaching moment. And I think that's kind of the type of thing that type of situation that we really need to have happen. As far as what type, I've never taken a fun test. I didn't know there was such a thing out there, but I guess there should be. But so I probably like the kinesthetic. I like feeling that we're having a good time. I like watching people light up, being animated. I like that type of conversation. My wife's a little bit she's quite a social butterfly, and so she just really likes social occasions. We have people over at our house all the time. In fact, this last Thanksgiving, we had what I call orphaned couples to our house just because all their children were gone, empty nesters, so to speak. So four other orphan couples that came to our house, enjoyed a Thanksgiving feast, and that is kind of that type of fun. So I like that. I like the feeling that happens there, the kinesthetic feeling, but I like that sociality too that comes with that.
Yeah, definitely. What would you say makes you really laugh like all the time, like without fail?
Oh, that's a great question. I haven't even thought of that. What makes me laugh all the time? I think that there's some parodies on Saturday Night Live, and we're looking at sarcasm again. Saturday Night Live is usually very, very funny, and they're obviously paid to be funny. But it's just there a lot of those jokes like that come. Excuse me, I had a period in my life that I actually went through an anger management class, and the anger management class wasn't great. It wasn't very funny as I'm going through it, but because there were a lot of guys in there, I volunteered to be there because I felt like I needed to know the difference. What was that circle of abuse? What was that angry? What else was included in that angry culture? So as I'm identifying that, my solution was to find out what would be the opposite of that. But in having gone through that class, then the movie Anger Management came out. That movie makes me laugh every time I see it, just because I'm reminded of those days, and it's just the Jack Nicholson and Adam Sandler are just hilarious in that movie, and that movie always makes me laugh. And a very similar movie to it is Happy Gilmore. Those type of movies where I watch people be angry, and then I try to you watch them try to progress through life, and sometimes they get it and sometimes they still have the anger, but watching that transition is very I feel myself inside those movies, and that makes me laugh every single time that I used to look like that. Oh, that's horrible. I wish, and I see that, the people can transform. They really can. It's not just in the movies, it's not just on the screen, but it makes me laugh every time I watch those movies.
Yeah, for sure. Um, you talked about how like just now, like how people can change. Would you say, um, like on a scale of like 1 to 10, like how hard was it for you to change from being an angry person?
Well, Leanna, I had worked on this for many years. Like I mentioned, I was age 35 before I decided to stop blaming my father. He'd already been dead 7 years. And
Mm,
so I made these little decisions all along the way. In fact, at age 17, when I left home, I left after my junior year of high school and moved in with my brother. So at age 17 or 18, almost all teenagers that I've ever heard of say, I'm not going to be like my parents. When I have a family, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And they plan their whole life, the ideal of their life, they plan their whole life to be like that. And I think these small decisions are made all along the way. But what was the tip of the iceberg for me, how I could actually see a change happening, was when the die was created. And as I'm rolling the die and just the change of focus, I like to compare it to a magnifying glass. Whatever you focus on is going to get larger. I was focused on the angry part of it, like
mhm.
not being angry and that sort of thing. I was focused on that instead of focused on being loving. And as soon as I made that change of focus, it was magical. It was almost overnight, actually, because I now have a tool that works, a tool that actually changed that mindset overnight. So it didn't take very long at all. In fact, it really was overnight that I went from being annoyed about other people and what they were doing, and as soon as I drew that line, said, I don't have to worry about them. Oh, I don't have to be their boss. I don't have to be just on them about doing things the way I would do them. I'm not in charge of their life. And once I made that realization and moved into what I am in charge of, sending love out and watching for it to come back, that's when really the change happened. Changing that focus from the angry focus of watching for what's wrong with people to the loving focus of watching what's right with them. It
Yeah.
was overnight.
Well, yeah, like there is some peace just like surrendering to like the realization that you can only control yourself and no one else. Like once like you really can let go of like that want and need to like want to control other people and like um yeah, it's just like creates a lot of like, oh, okay, I could just let go. Like it's just like calm, serene, you
It
know.
is. It absolutely is. And it's the I can do it attitude. Oh, you mean I don't have to manage everybody? Woo! Yay! That takes a big burden off your shoulders and you just feel so much lighter.
Mhm.
I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah. Well, and also like in your, what you just said also is like so often everyone is like thinking about what they don't want. I don't want this. I don't want that. And then like, but if you can actually like identify and like really be specific about what you do want, I think it can make a big difference too. Yeah.
Absolutely. It manifests itself. It really does. And if you say what I don't want, it actually is going to enlarge it. It's going to
Mhm.
make it bigger. And that, to me, that's part of that angry culture. And I think a little bit is seeped in into a lot of people, pervasive within the society itself. I think that we really, if we're watching any type of media, they're focused, any type of news, they're focused on the negative that's happened for the most part. I would say 80 to maybe 90% of a newscast is on the negative. What's wrong in the world? What did people do that was absolutely wrong? And obviously, I guess there's a need to report that. I know that it sells, and it does very well. Love doesn't sell that well, and maybe that's why they focus on it, because they're a business that's transactional. And so, we're trained that way. We're actually trained by the media to look at the negative. I'm trying to turn that tide, turn it around to say, come on, guys, there's a better way. And you're going to have a better life if you just change the focus.
Mhm.
I had to do it for myself. I wanted to do it for myself. That's a very key, Lalania, is that you have to want that change. If you don't want it, if you don't care, it's not going to happen for you. You've got to want that change, and then change the focus to love.
Yeah, definitely. If you could, if you had like a dinner party, uh, like what three people would you invite?
I would actually love to talk to Abraham Lincoln, and just to get an idea of what. Yeah, I loved his philosophy of life, and it's just down home. Really a great philosophy, great one-liners that we have from him as a president. Very quoted quite a lot. I would love to have him at the dinner party. In addition to that, I'd love to have George Washington there to compare notes. George, how'd you do it? Abraham, how did you do it? Have those two people there. And then I think that I'd like to have, um, that's a good question. Who else would be a good company? And it's interesting that, before my wife, who's very, very social, before I married her, I would think that anybody can mix, and anybody would be a good mix for a dinner party. But now that I've married her, she really kind of strategically structures the audience and the dinner party so that it's going to flow. It's going to be just kind of good. There's not going to be a lot of those awkward moments, and nobody likes awkward anyway. So, for that last person, yeah, I'd love to have dinner with Gandhi or Mother Teresa. I mean, I would, or yeah, any of the Nelson Mandela would be another great one. So any of those people, any combination of those five people that I just mentioned, would be a great dinner party.
Yeah. Um, what would be your dream vacation?
My dream vacation, uh, that's a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that question, Alenia. So my dream vacation, I actually really like snorkeling. So I love Hawaii. I love Cozumel. I love just the clear waters like that. And I think thankfully, there's still a lot of clear waters like that around the world that you can actually see a lot of fish and a lot of different colors of fish. It's one of my favorite things is to go snorkeling. I'm not a scuba diver, but I do love snorkeling. And so anywhere where there's white sand, or just a situation that there's a lot of fish and clear waters for snorkeling, I would love that.
Yeah. Sounds beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, scuba diving sounds terrifying to me.
Uh,
Um, what makes you feel just like really special? And if you had like a day that would be like you would just walk away just feeling the most special that you could ever feel, what would happen there on that day?
that's a great question, and I probably just want to refer back to the love languages. If it's now that I know all five love languages, and I can see it coming my way. Uh, very special day would be I could see everyone that was sending love to me in all the different ways, and I'd feel very special on that day, not only that I could recognize it, but that people were loving on me. And what would be really the most special day would be if others also would feel that same love, that they would be able to see it coming their way. If we had the neighborhood, if we had the community, if we had the state or the nation or the world to get to that point where not only me, but everybody else can see that love coming their way, that would be a really special day. That would probably be the most special day ever, is if a community would just take hold of this and really, as a community, dive into this, get these basics of all 5 love languages down, so that all the communication within that community is all love languages. Everybody's doing it, everybody's sending it out, everybody's able to recognize it when it's coming their way, and the communication level is just much higher than it would be. That would be a very special day for me. Not that it's not really about me, but it's about everybody being able to be able to see the love coming their way, recognize it, and responding appropriately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like there's like this idea, like, so often, most people are like so like focused on themselves, but like I even like was having like this conversation with my students, and I was just like, we're just like kind of like, imagine if we saw like everyone feeling like that way, and it just like makes you feel like everyone is like, yeah, that would be so, so great. Like they recognize that, how great that would feel if all of us felt that way. Yeah.
And we feel it at different levels. Obviously, we are different individuals, and I wouldn't have it any other way. If we're all the same, if we're all, if I mean, it just wouldn't be very fun to have us all like the color blue. There'd be a shortage of the color blue out there, and it would be boring after a while, because everybody's wearing blue, everybody's driving a blue car, and it would just get really boring. So thank goodness for these differences. But even within these differences, if we can see the similarities of how we send out love and respond to love, I think that would absolutely accentuate those differences and help us feel more like a community, more like we're like a piece of cloth knit together in a fashion that we belong together. We belong, whatever neighborhood we live in, we belong there. We feel comfortable there, and I would love that would make my day.
Yeah. How about doing a few like either ors?
Okay.
Cats or dogs?
I'm allergic to both, but my preference, I don't know if I have a preference on that. I absolutely love petting a cat and just listen to the cat purr. Just that whole sound of, it's like the cat's talking to me and saying, "Oh, that feels so good," and it's just such a fun response, immediate response. But then but the cat's not coming up to you at the end of the day like a dog would and say, "Oh, you're back, you're back, you're back, you're back. I love it, I love it, I love it. Let's play, let's play." And it's this, I love the dog for that, because they'll come right up to you, and it's just unbounded love that dog will give to you. Cats, not so much. They don't. It's just different. Like I said, I like the purring of the cat, but I like the unfettered love of that dog.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess there's like supposedly like there's something about like a cat's purr that is supposed to be like really good for like getting into your parasympathetic. Like it's good for our bodies to be here, like be around a cat purring kind of thing. So I think that's interesting. But like, yeah, dogs are like so pure and innocent and like so sweet.
They are.
Calling or texting?
I like the sound of people's voices, and I like just having that interaction that way. But I'll also like texting, because I think it's an efficient way to find out if that person's available to talk or it's if that person's not available, maybe you just have a quick question and you don't have time to talk. So I like both, but I think I prefer calling.
Mountain or beach?
That's a great question. I was raised in Montana, and there's lots of mountains in Montana, and so I that's where I grew up. That's where my roots are. But when I was 17, I moved in with my brother, and 6 months later, he was transferred down to California, and so that was kind of my first experiences of of body surfing and that sort of thing at the beach. And I don't like the beach in the wintertime. I'm not one of those polar people, polar ice guys that's going to jump in the ocean on New Year's Day. I'm not doing that. I'm not jumping in a lake on New Year's Day. I'm just not doing that. So I'd actually like to stick to the mountains. I really I like skiing, and I learned how to ski when I was in 8th grade, and I've liked it. I don't do a lot of it, but I still really like skiing. I like the mountains. I like the wildlife that's in the mountain, and so I'm going to pick the mountains.
Yeah. Summer or winter?
I am definitely a guy. I live in St. George, Utah, so I'm in southern Utah, and most of Utah has snow, but St. George is low enough. We're just two hours north of Las Vegas, Nevada, and everybody knows how hot Las Vegas gets in the summertime. I still like it. I still, there, even though there's just so many clothes that you can take off, I still like the heat a lot more than the cold. The cold, I remember walking in Montana when I was growing up, walking to church 2 blocks away, and I'd be frostbitten by the time I got there because it was like 50 below zero. And
Ugh.
I was dedicated to be going to church, dedicated so much that I'd walk the 2 blocks, but my nose was blue, or my ears were blue, or my fingers had turned blue by that time. And it takes a while to thaw out after you're there. So I'd linger at the church and then thaw out, and before I take a deep breath, go out back outside and make brave the walk home. So
Yeah.
definitely summer.
Ugh, yeah, no, it doesn't sound fun. Um, Camping or going to a hotel?
I'm a hotel kind of guy. I've had enough of my camping in my life. Even it's funny that you say that, because I chose mountains, and this would be almost conflicting that I would choose to do a hotel. In raising 8 children, the best trips that we had were actually going to a Hampton Inn. We had one trip that we did all Hampton Inns all across, and they're kind of a three and a half star hotel, and they always have the breakfast. They always had all the amenities that you'd ever need for kids, and it was just really friendly. And that was some of the best vacations that we ever had. When you go camping, there's going to be one or more, or maybe it's me that's going to be complaining, and so definitely a hotel.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. The book or the movie?
I am. I used to be a much more voracious reader than I am now, but I'm probably going to go with the movie now. I like the depiction. Sometimes I don't like the interpretation of a book on the screen, but for the most part, I think that most directors nowadays are really doing a very good job of depicting a story. And so I do like the genre of movies that it's a true story, or it's a something that is historical, that happened, and then maybe an interpretation of, director's interpretation of how that story happened, because we don't really have any records. So the interpretation of that, something like that. So if I'm going to pick a genre of movies, that would be a movie that would be a true story. And so it relates back to a book, or it relates back to real life situation, then that would be my choice.
Yeah. All right, last question. Planes or cars?
I flew on my first airplane ride when I was 17, and it was to my brother's funeral. And so that kind of just it was exciting, but it was kind of depressing all at the same time. And I didn't remember how confining it was, but in the recently with all the having to recycle that air within the plane and do that sort of thing, it's really kind of a petri dish for sickness. And so I don't really like going on the planes anymore. I do if it's a very long distance and I have to get there quickly, but I've really liked cars. And I've taken a solo trip. I went from Charleston, South Carolina, all the way to Salt Lake City, Utah. It was a 32-hour trip, but I made it 32 hours with just a 2-hour nap. I mean, it was all driving the whole time, all by myself.
Wow.
And so that 2-hour nap that I took was sufficient to get me to my destination, but I was definitely tired. What I like to do with the children was to stop and read the historical posts along the way too, and by doing that, you learn a lot from the nation. I'm a more boots on the ground kind of guy. Car is going to be it.
For sure. Well, I really appreciate you being on. Thank you so much. Where can the audience find you?
Great question. You can find the dice. I've got the book and the journal. You can find it all on my website at rolloflove.com, ROLE of love.com. I did a play on words. You ROLL the dice outside of you. The change happens within. That's ROLE would be the change that happens within. So ROLE of love.com.
Well, thank you so much, and I will make sure to put that in the notes, of course. So,
Great.
yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Lania, and it's been a pleasure to be with you today.
You too.